And welcome back to another episode of the Amazin City. As always, it is Antonio Slater and Jack Ramsey. Just like the last time, we're going to do the housekeeping beforehand. You can follow us at Amazin City Pod, at Antonio Slater, at whatever Jack's handle is this week. I think it's back to
I
JWR
don't know.
2002. I'm going to ignore the fact that's the year that you were born, probably, because that makes you feel like, I don't know, 1,000 years old. Um, yeah, Jack, I mean, I, you know what? I'm going to say it. The Mets are back.
Yeah, we missed
It's
last
it's kind
week.
of hard to deny it. The Mets are back.
Yeah, I mean, looking back in it now, it's kind of a bummer that we didn't get to record after the initial struggles. I was sick. We had some scheduling issues,
Right.
but it would have been interesting to look at that now. How we would have gone after, like if we recorded after the loss in Cincinnati,
Right.
where you hung Johan Ramirez out to dry.
Hmm.
Recording after that and then recording now, I think it would have been preferable just to see the difference in the
Right.
last
Right.
week
Because
and a
I
half.
feel like if we did record after that day, like we originally planned, um, I would have had some words for Mr. Mendoza, and I would have
Yeah.
started this episode with, you know what, buddy? I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, and it's just like
Because
looking at what's transpired
sure.
since looking, and considering the schedule and the arms they did not have available,
Right.
kind of get hanging them out there to dry now. I mean, someone had to bite the bullet, and if you only had three relievers available that day, it is what it is. But just considering that in the span of 2 weeks, they've gone from that to, you know, DJ Stewart almost having a multi-homer game against Yoshinobu Yamamoto.
Right.
We've, we've it's been a long start to the season already, not in the sense that they're bad, it's just in the sense that so much has already happened.
Yeah. Yeah. And
I mean, we're not
I'll
even
I'll
20
I'll
games
I'll
in.
end it. I'll end it with this with the whole Johan
End the
Ramirez
podcast?
thing.
Oh
No.
no, just Johan Ramirez. Okay.
Yeah, we're
Just need to
done.
double check.
I mean, I get in the circumstance why Johan Ramirez just left out to dry, but based on how they handled the bullpen in the days prior to that is why Johan Ramirez was left out to dry like that. But hey, we're 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 forgetting that. We're gonna go past it.
We are
Mendoza
we are
is
moving on
we're moving on. Okay. Since then, the Mets have
for
won.
once on this podcast.
What? The Mets are 11 of the last 14. They just beat the Dodgers 9-4 with their $325 million pitcher on the mound. Again, like you said, DJ Stewart was inches away from a multi-home run game. Harrison Bader had a 4-hit game. Francisco Lindor had 2 hits from the left side, which is incredibly encouraging. I mean, top to bottom, you're getting productions from the lineup. The only thing that sucks is that now it looks like you're going to be losing your starting catcher for somewhat of an extended period of time. We all saw that the injury to Alvarez. Thumbs don't typically bend that way. Um, so the early reports from I think it was Mike Puma said that Tomasino is already on his way to meet the team in LA. So that means Alvarez is going to go in the IL for what the length of time is. That's yet to be determined, but we won't be seeing our star catcher anytime soon.
Right. And I think you were kind of at a point where it's not to say it felt inevitable, but just with the way Alvarez had been getting beaten up over the last handful of games, like him getting some time, whether it was, you know, like an outside the box demotion just to spell him a week or so, to take some time to heal up.
Or even just
Or
DHing him for a
and
week.
yeah, you DH him, you DFA Wendell or Short and call up a third catcher.
Right.
You know, felt like kind of a break for Francisco Alvarez was almost needed, just considering it. I almost want to call it torment his body has been through to start the year. But no, thumbs don't bend that way. And I think kind of the deeper issue for the Mets here is that the starting catcher in Syracuse, Austin Allen, got hurt,
Hmm.
hasn't played since the 13th. So you're going to call up Nito, who's done fine for himself in Syracuse so far this year, but in 30 plate appearances doesn't have a walk yet. 3 extra base hits so far. And we know he is defensively,
Mhm.
but he's not going to play every day. You're going to give Narvaez the brunt of the opportunities behind the plate. So I think it just depends on how long this is. If it's a sprain, that might only be a couple weeks.
Right.
Then it might be, here's 3 or 4 games in Syracuse. Let's go. If it's a tear of something in his thumb, we might be looking at a couple months. And then
Yeah.
at that point, you might be asking yourself, all right, maybe we need to look external for a stopgap for a couple weeks. Maybe it's probably cost a little bit more than you'd like to bring in a couple months stopgap, but maybe an Alejandro Kirk.
I don't think it'd be someone of that kind
Well,
of
Kirk's been horrible this year, and he was
well,
bad
no,
last year.
he's been terrible. But if they're going external, I think they're looking more in the ilk of like Christian Bethancourt from Miami.
Bethancourt's been the worst catcher in baseball so far this year.
I I understand, but he's
Like I
also
was
the
looking
worst
at
team in
it,
baseball.
right? I was looking at kind of some of like who might be the available um obtainable catchers this morning.
I don't know where Michael Perez is, but maybe you bring him back. I don't know what team
He's
he's on.
right. Yeah. So they're and that's kind of where you go to, is that their best bet might be prying someone from someone's AAA team.
Correct.
Former Met farmhand Ali Sanchez, strong defender, off to a good start in AAA with the Cubs. Maybe a Michael Perez, something like
Would
that. But the
would you
problem,
take a chance? Would you take a chance, call up Pittsburgh and call for Yasmani Grandal?
no. Well, and this is the problem with when your catcher gets hurt, is catching is by far the, I want to say, the least talented position in baseball right now.
It's thin. It's
It,
top
it's
heavy.
it's top heavy, and the top are really more or less young club controlled players.
Right.
It's not like you can just go get Patrick Bailey
Right.
from the Giants.
Hmm.
The only one that might have made sense, if this happened a couple weeks ago, was trying to work out something for Joey Bart, who
Yeah.
now is off to a good start in Pittsburgh.
Very good start in
But then
Pittsburgh.
again, he's now off to a good start in Pittsburgh.
Hmm.
That allows them to move Henry Davis out from behind the plate to positions he fares better at.
Right.
It softens the blow of no Andy Rodriguez
Hmm.
for the year. So there's not really a lot out there that would make sense for the Mets, if
Right.
that makes sense. You know, um, so I think you're gonna have to kind of suck it up for a couple months, or tell yourself we're not gonna have Narvaez back next year. Nito's not our catcher next year. We can maybe this is an opportunity to bring in someone for this year and beyond.
Mm.
And maybe if that's the mindset you take, we're knowing that JD Martinez probably isn't a Met next year. JD Stewart,
Probably.
you still don't, or DJ Stewart, you still don't think he's your long term whatever. And you can
Right.
bring in, someone, you can get to a situation like you had with Darno and Contreras, Sean Murphy and Darno, a very high end backup who can DH, allows you to DH your starter, one of your better bats off the bench.
Hmm.
So maybe if that's something the Mets are interested, maybe like an Elias Diaz. I think he's a free agent after next year. That would allow you to get really creative
Mm.
with your lineup and how you construct your roster from there. But it's just the Mets are gonna more or less have to suck it up and figure it out. I mean, you'll
Yeah.
start with Nito and you're gonna start with Nito and Narvaez, and this is that time of year when guys are able to start opting out of their minor league contracts. But until then, or until you start to get some legitimate names in the market, just looking at it now, having it up in front of me, it's hard to see where the Mets are going to be able to find, unless you can pry one of the two catchers from Boston, whether it's McGuire or Wong. I don't know what their contracts are like.
Well, Connor Wong is they're probably both under team control for a few
Couple years.
years.
Right. But this then if you're the Mets, you don't want to get yourself into a spot where you have to overpay
Of course.
for a short-term fix. But you also
Right.
know if you're the Mets, there goes a massive part of your lineup.
Yeah, right. And I understand that he hasn't had the power production that we've expected so far this year, but it's also, what is it, 18, 19 games. And yeah, he only has one home run, but he's walking more, he's driving in more runs. So even though he's not hitting the ball a mile and a half every at bat, that could almost be seen as a good thing because he's showing he's more of a complete hitter going into his second full season. And that's a massive part of your lineup. And not for nothing, home run production or not, the threat of Francisco Alvarez is far more significant than the threat of Omar Narvaez or Tomas Nido combined.
Right.
You
So I
come
mean,
if you have second and third with one out, here comes Francisco Alvarez. If I'm a pitcher, you're more likely shitting your pants. If you got second, third, one out, or hell, bases loaded, nobody out, and it's Omar Narvaez, just like, okay, I feel pretty good about it. Get a double play here.
right. I think looks like Reese McGuire has this year and next year. So maybe it's
So
someone
that's
like
more in play.
right. Maybe it's someone like that if you're looking at needing a long-term solution,
Right.
long-term being a couple months. But I mean, I think you're gonna have to give Narvaez and Nito their shot.
And this
I mean,
again, like you said, all
Austin Allen would
we
have
don't
made
know.
the most sense.
We don't know how
Right.
long he's going to be out.
Yeah, if it's a couple weeks, then you deal with it for a couple weeks. You look to continue to ride.
Where's
You know,
Parada at? Is he double A?
for his last 17.
Good. Good.
Has a 660 something OPS on the year.
Okay.
I mean, I think
Sure.
the other way around this for the Mets, I think would be, maybe you're now a little quicker to try and upgrade over a Short or Wendell, just for the sake of having more offense on the roster. So I mean, it'll be a game of wait and see. As I've pointed out before, Rylan Bannon from spring training has been great for Syracuse. Luke Ritter's been great. So it might just be more so you deal with the catchers for, they are what they are until Alvarez comes back. But, maybe
Right.
that weak spot on the bench, a Short, a Wendell, you try and upgrade over that quicker. You start with some in-house candidates, go from there. You'll get JD Martinez within a couple weeks.
Mhm.
And that'll automatically get rid of one of Wendell or Short. Because you're not getting rid of DJ Stewart for him.
No,
He
that's
has
it like Babe Ruth right now.
minimum 175 at bats. He has the sixth highest OPS in Mets history. It's like Olerud, Wright, Alonso, Stewart, Piazza, or Strawberry, Piazza, DJ Stewart. Something. Actually, I have a screenshot.
Just like we all expected.
I have a screenshot of it.
Just like we
Like
all
he hit three
expected.
balls 100 miles per hour faster last night. It goes Olerud, Piazza, Moises Alou,
Moises
Cespedes,
Alou.
in 377 career at bats of the Mets, 898 OPS. Mind, this is when he was like 47.
Right.
But so it goes Olerud, Piazza, Alou, Cespedes, Strawberry, DJ Stewart.
Good old Demetrius Jerome. Like I don't think I've ever seen someone click so quickly. The first week and a half, he looked awful. He wasn't hitting the ball, and when he was hitting it just right into the ground for double plays, and it was just lifeless at bats. And then it was like the second game in Atlanta, they bumped him up to like fifth or something like that, and then homie just went off. And ever since then, he's been one of the best hitters in baseball. I don't get it. I don't get it. I'm not mad at it. I'm actually quite happy about it. The fact that they're getting this type of production from DJ Stewart. But it's crazy,
Well, and
man.
it's like it kind of softens the blow of losing Alvarez for a little bit
Definitely.
because you have a more impact bat that you otherwise weren't expecting.
Definitely.
And there's direct correlation between the Mets' recent success and DJ Stewart starting to figure it out, put it together.
Yeah.
There was direct correlation. I'm not saying the Mets are winning solely because of DJ Stewart, but timing wise,
Mhm.
and just seeing what he's done to the lineup. Again, like he almost took Yamamoto deep twice last night.
Twice.
And
2
then
times.
his single through the hole was the hardest hit Mets ball tonight. And the Mets hit some taters last night. The Mets hit some rockets last night. But I think they're
Guys got an
also
OPS plus of 190.
like I think the Mets are also starting to get some production
Mm-hmm.
that like if we said like, all right, a perfect world for this guy. Like, let me pull up Starling Marte's line. Marte on the year is hitting 275, 325, 425.
Hell yeah.
So if I had told you Marte's gonna hit 275, 325, 425, be like, all right, sign me up.
Yeah.
Like that's a 750 OPS. Stewart is what he is. Nemo's still struggling. But I mean, Harrison Bader, 333, 367, 421. But if I told you Bader will get on around 350 and slug around 420, 425, you would have taken that. The singles are going to start to die down. He's not going to hit 333 all year.
No.
But if I told you you'd get a 775 OPS out of Harrison Bader,
Yeah.
you probably won't. It'll probably be closer to the 750 mark, but that with the defense in center field, it's what you want.
I
mean,
think
as the weather gets warmer, Beatty will start to hit for some more power. And I hate to say it, but as he goes down, Francisco Álvarez has a 652 OPS.
Right.
So it's not like he's really been producing at an insane level. And again, like McNeil has a 666 OPS. Nemo's at 706. Lindor is at 536. Alonso's at 872, which is still kind of low considering like going into last year, Alonso had a career OPS in the 900s.
Mm-hmm.
So Alonso's a little under what you'd hope from him. Hope about a 900 OPS from the guy. Lindor obviously getting better, but still not what you want. Nemo's gone cold. McNeil's not hitting for any power aside from the one homer. I mean, on the year,
He
McNeil
doesn't need it
has
for power.
the
That's not
one
his game.
homer. No, right, but you'd still hope for more than a 333 slugging from him. You'd still hope for 10 homers. You want the doubles.
Mm.
You're not getting that from him right now. But so obviously, as when you expect to see a little bit of recession from the Harrison Baders of the world, the DJ Stewarts of the world, you're thinking, all right, you're gonna get more power out of Brett Baty.
Mm.
You're gonna start to get some more extra base hits out of McNeil. Nemo, you're gonna start getting him more on base regularly, and if Lindor keeps his trend going, he'll be fine by the end of the month.
Right.
So, I mean, obviously losing Alvarez sucks, but they're these guys will get back to what they can do.
Right.
So as you start to see that, I think things kind of sort themselves out. No, it's like what we talked about with the pitching. They'll come down to earth a little bit, the starting pitching, but they'll start to go deeper in starts.
Yeah.
And they've done that. You had Severino go into the 6th. Budo gave you 6. Manaya's gone into the 6th. Quintana has gone into the 6th, but hasn't gone through 6. I mean, Hauser's the only guy who's not really giving you legitimate length.
Right. But I also feel like that's gonna turn a little bit because he's walking more guys, and that's never been in his MO.
Right. I mean, and if it isn't, and if you can't figure it out, then
also
you go
that
to
Atlanta
David
game,
Peterson.
he got squeezed to shit.
Yeah, I mean, he also
that was the tightest zone I've ever seen.
He gave up some of the loudest contact you'll ever hear.
He gave up nukes, but he was also when he wasn't giving up nukes, he was getting squeezed.
Right.
He had to throw it into a tin can to get a strike call.
Yeah. So I mean, it's you feel good about where the Mets are at. I think just in general, you almost have to. But the thing that's the most puzzling is the bullpen. Just because
puzzling in a good way.
Yeah, like bullpens can be volatile year to year.
Right.
Like, but Diaz is throwing slower than he usually does. But also
not affecting the results.
Reed Garrett is suddenly the best pitcher on the planet.
Right, obviously.
So it's like, the Mets have the 5th best bullpen ERA in baseball.
Mm-hmm.
Sox, Royals, Tigers, Guardians, Mets.
Obviously.
Right, as you'd all expect.
For sure.
But like the Mets bullpen as a unit has a where'd that number go? Has a 309 ERA. The bullpen's whip is 127, 9.68 Ks per nine. It's been a solid group. They've only
Yeah.
given up 10 homers. The Mets bullpen has given up the least amount of home runs of any unit in baseball.
And that's with
you can think
Michael
of
Tonkin
two or
throwing
three
batting
of
practice
those.
the first 2
Right.
weeks
You
of
can
the
think of
season.
2 or 3 of those to Tonkin and Ramirez in like 2 separate innings alone.
Right.
So once you kind of get past that, it's been a great. I mean, like, look, Lopez has not looked like a guy with the ERA with an ERA in the ones. He hasn't looked the part. Barry Garrett looks fucking filthy.
Drew Smith is back.
Drew Smith looks filthy. Jake Diekman does not look good, but he's managing. Ottavino looks like he could throw 5 more years.
Yeah, he's looked gross. He's looked pretty gross.
So it's, you give, you take, and I think part of this is they're kicking ass where you want them to kick ass. You want them, look, if you're a fan of the New York Mets, you want them to pitch, field, and hit for pop.
Mm-hmm.
They're pitching, they're fielding, and they got some dudes hitting for some power.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, they've given up the least homers in baseball as a unit in the bullpen. I mean, that's been, think of their bugaboo for so many years.
Oh my God.
Is a home run bullpen is giving up untimely home runs.
Mm-hmm. That was the issue last year.
Yeah, and I mean, even to 2019. Think of all the horribly timed homers that Smith, Familia, and Diaz served up.
Mm-hmm.
Familia and Diaz specifically. So it's hard not
Diaz
to
gave up
be.
what, like 20 home runs that year?
I go back to the Kirk Suzuki home run.
That one, the Gene Segura one. Yeah, so many just killers. But then again, juice ball.
Right.
Get rid of the juice ball, and suddenly Diaz becomes the best pitcher on the planet. So
Yeah. So I don't think they're as good as they're currently playing. But if there's a time to do it, other National League contenders is the right time. When we look up at the trade deadline, the Mets will probably be in a pretty similar clump as the Pirates and as the Reds. But when you were looking at the Mets, when the Mets went on that run in early July last year, and had some people talking themselves into not selling, they were within reach. But the big issue was they had already played teams in front of them, had more or less gotten housed.
right.
And that's when you kind of realized, whereas it was the opposite case for the Padres. The Padres had already beaten the teams ahead of them.
Right.
It was just, can we start taking care of business? Which, I mean, ultimately they couldn't. But, as the Mets, they were behind teams they had already lost to.
Right.
So especially early in the year, if you're getting hot at the right time, the Reds will be a contender. The Pirates look like a contender, especially with the pitching they've been getting. And
They're not I'm not falling for it.
I think they're going to win a lot of 3-2, 2-1 games.
I'm not falling for it.
Falter's looked good. Jones has looked good. You're going to get Skeens up.
I'm not falling for it.
They just called up another good prospect the other day.
Quinn Priester stinks. That guy's terrible.
I think they're going to be. I don't think they'll end up being a contender in the end, but they're going to be a team that at the deadline is looking at going either way. The pitching alone will keep them in it.
I don't think so. I'm just not a believer. I'm just not a believer. We saw this last year. They were in first place June 15th, and then they ended up 20 games out of it. 20. What's different about this year? They're essentially the same roster, except they have one more scumbag who should be in a federal prison on their roster. Actually, two, because they also signed Domingo Herman.
I agree with that part.
And I think what's key about the Mets winning right now, it's not just who they're beating, it's when they're beating them. Look at all the series these past 4 series that they've won. They've beaten the Reds, who at the time were the hottest team in baseball. They were everyone's big thing. Then they went out and they beat Atlanta at home. That's pretty self-explanatory. Then they come back home to Citi Field and they face the Pittsburgh Pirates, who
11-5 going into the series.
right, who were at the time the hottest team in baseball, 2 out of 3. No, they swept them. Sorry. And then the Royals, who were then at the time the hottest team in baseball, took 2 out of 3. Now they're going against the Dodgers, who are supposed to be
Self-explanatory.
hello, yes. So if you're beating the hottest team in baseball 4 times in a row, and then a team that's supposed to win 175 games this year,
Well,
that's got to be a good sign.
the Mets have also gotten back to what they did really well in 2022, which was just brave the storm of the strong starting pitcher and then beat the shit out of the bullpen.
Right.
Yamamoto looked good, but the Mets were also able to do a little bit what every other team has done. They jumped on him early. Marte almost took him deep in his first at bat in the first pitch. Stewart takes him deep first pitch with 1 out in the second. I think they got 4 runs off him, but they jumped on the bullpen. Think of the game in Pittsburgh. They're getting dominated by Jones.
Right. That kid's gross.
Yeah, he's filthy. I picked him up in my dynasty league with a bunch of admittedly prospect nerds. I just picked him up like a year ago. I don't know how I pulled that off. But
I thank Derek Shelton for taking the guy out after 59 pitches.
Right, but so you get to a point where he's dealing, you're able to brave it. You run into whatever issues you do, whether it's trying to limit his pitches and his innings or whatever, but you then jump on the bullpen. That's what they did so well in when they were good in 2021, the first half of the year, and then in 2022. They made the starter work. They toughed it out. They jumped on their first opportunity on the bullpen. In both of those times, looking at those 2 games, the Jones game and the Yamamoto game, they beat up on the bullpen.
Yeah.
I mean, the Mets, I think, got 6 or 7 off the Pirates bullpen that day. They got 5 off the Dodgers bullpen last night. And when you're playing the Dodgers, especially this year, you're going to want to beat Yamamoto when you get the chance.
For sure.
Those are the ones you want to take advantage of. So, you get a night like last night. I mean, and overall, this has been his case. His stuff has looked good, but he has not really produced the way you would hope he would out of your $325 million starter. But so you're able to get to him, and then you just kind of beat up on the bullpen.
Right.
So it's not just how they're winning, it's the way in which they're winning. Or it's not just that they're winning, it's the way in which they're winning. And it's a model that they've shown before is sustainable. But so now you go into your last 2 games where can you shut up? Where you have
Yamamoto yesterday had 18 whiffs. He got 18 whiffs and still kind of got shelled.
Right. No, so I mean the Mets have been aggressive and selective, if that makes sense.
Right.
It's gonna be tough having games with 18 whiffs and winning. But so when you're able to do that, you take it. So now so you have the series, you go Yamamoto, Gavin Stone, who has not been good, and James Paxton, who I'm not believing is actually finally good again until I see more than 3 or 4 starts.
Right.
But so now you've gotten past the big hump. The Mets can easily win this series out west. And then after that, you go to the Giants, who we were talking about it before we came on, have been horrible.
They stink.
I mean, like really just kind of looking at this now, you can win this series in LA. You have Webb and Snell in San Francisco going up against Quintana, Severino, Minaya. It's a winnable series, especially considering how the Giants have been playing. And then you go back home for St. Louis and Chicago, and you figure that out there. But so they've won 4 series in a row right now?
They've won 4, and if they win today or tomorrow, it'll be 5.
Right. So, I mean, they're in a good spot to win 6 series in a row. It's hard not to like it. And, I mean, I've been screaming this from the rooftops since day one. Can we just shut the fuck up and see what happens? I didn't think they were going to be good, and that's fine. That's fine. But I was not calling for people's jobs. I think those are the balloons. Yeah.
Well,
Nothing. I got balloons that are blurred out like right there,
Oh yeah, those are balloons. Yeah.
but it's kind of I didn't know what they looked like at first. It kind of freaked me out in my own living room. But I wasn't calling for anyone's job,
Hmm.
you know. But Mendoza had a suspension before he had a major league win. You know, these are the same
That's a
Mets.
pretty good point.
I mean, that towel behind your head, these Mets are the same ones who had Jeff McNeil bitching and moaning about a fairly legal slide that led to them that led
I'm
to
with
Reese
McNeil on it.
Hoskins,
I'm with McNeil on it.
but that led to Reese Hoskins going nuclear against the team.
Yeah.
I mean, the Mets were like, you know, they're like Sam Darnold Jets levels of embarrassment and ugly in the first 5 games.
Yeah, no, they were seeing ghosts for sure. They were seeing ghosts.
But so now they're 11-3 since starting 0-5. They just beat Yamamoto. They're gonna have to beat Gavin Stone or James Paxton to take this series. And then you go into a scuffling Giants team where in Blake Snell's 3 starts, they've been outscored 34-6.
Guys got
And
an
they
ERA
get
of over 11 and a half.
they get Snell the last game of that series. You know, so
What are the pitching matchups for that game, for that series? You just ran through it, but I already
did.
forgot.
This is why I love ESPN because it has them all listed out through April 30th. Quintana win on
Okay.
Monday.
You feel okay about that one?
Severino Webb,
I'm counting that as a loss.
Mania Snow. But Mania in that ballpark,
Right.
you're gonna
Listen,
take.
Manaea's looked good. Manaea's looked good. Manaea has looked good. He
absolutely
had one bad outing against the Royals. Outside of that, I think he's been exactly what you've looked for.
I think last night was exactly what you would have asked for out of him against the Los Angeles Dodgers.
Correct.
That's what you can ask for from out of any of these Mets starters.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so
he had some shaky defense behind him. Looking at you, Joey Wendell, and he still got through. He didn't get through 6, right? He got through 5.
Yeah, I'm ready to say they need to move on from Wendell.
Buddy, you came in here. You were brought in for your defense, and you've committed what, 5 errors already?
Right, yeah, he's got 3, leads the team, and he's been
it feels like a
horrible
lot more
at the
than
plate.
3.
And if you're gonna go, but if you're gonna go without Alvarez, you need to supplement offense elsewhere because you know you're not going to get it from Nino, and that is what it is. You're going to upgrade defensively a little bit there over Narvaez. You know,
I'm hoping Beatty's hammy is feeling nice and strong by today or tomorrow.
I'm ready to move on from Wendell. Call up Rylan Bannon, Luke Ritter.
I'd rather see Zach Short get more cracks than Joey Wendell right now.
Yeah, I'm ready to let that ship sail. But nonetheless, you know, so they're in position now to win their 5th straight series. And then you're going to have, we like the matchups for a 6th. And then you go home. And you always like your chance to win a series at home.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just looking at it this far out, you have Severino and Tyone, Manaea and Assad. And then you'll have Budo and Hauser the last 2 games. And then you head to Tampa, St. Louis, and you have Atlanta after that. So like what we talked about a lot in 2022 is you got to take advantage of your schedule when it gives it to you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, being able to go Giants, Cardinals back to back. Neither of those teams have really been terribly inspiring.
No.
If you want to play the Cardinals, you want to do it when Paul Goldschmidt looks washed. You know, because we'll look up in June and Paul Goldschmidt will have an OPS in the 800s again.
Correct.
But you want to get him when he's struggling. Same thing with it's the same thing with the Dodgers. You want to get him when Yamamoto doesn't look good, or he looks good, but every mistake he serves up is a horrible one.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can't throw that pitch to DJ Stewart. There's enough of a book on him now that you have to have a scouting report.
Sorry. Can you say that sentence one more time?
You cannot throw that pitch to DJ Stewart.
There's all enough the guys in the Mets lineup. I know we've already hit on DJ Stewart and how he's the second coming of Babe Ruth.
Yes, he is. What
did you picture yourself
saying that about Yoshinobu Yamamoto?
Ever picturing that sentence coming out of your mouth? Yoshinobu Yamamoto, the $325 million pitcher. You simply can't throw that pitch to Demetrius Jerome Stewart. You can't do it. What?
No, I did not see that one.
Pete Alonso. Not Francisco Lindor, not Francisco Alvarez.
Well,
Hell,
hold on.
not even Brandon Nimmo,
I forget
not
who the
Brett Beatty.
I forget who the reliever was, but you cannot throw that pitch to Francisco
No, no,
Lindor.
I know that you simply can't. I know he has to be great from
Middle,
left side, but
bottom of the letters.
yeah, I mean, I think it was Daniel Hudson, and I mean
Oh, he's
that guy's 74 years old.
yeah. I was gonna say. He's speaking of Moises Alou, he's starting to push it. You know, it's a shame DJ Stewart can't play like third base
Yeah.
because the Mets are gonna have to get creative when JD Martinez, if he ever shows up. But
Well, the
yeah, no,
expectation is
they
that he joined sometime on the homestand, I think, right?
right. So I mean, and to be fair, if you're okay spelling him a series, an extra series,
Can I set a
in
scene? Can I set a scene? Do you know where I'm going with it?
it's gonna hit a walk off someone.
No, no,
We talking like
I won't
Rajay
say
Davis? He
no.
gets driven to the park mid game, gets one pinch hit at bat.
What if, and I'm shocked we haven't touched on these yet. What if the first time we see JD Martinez is Saturday, April 27th in the City Connects?
I don't care for those uniforms.
I think they're nice. Listen, you don't like the hats. I think the hats are sick.
I don't like the hats. I think I like the concept. I just think the execution is wrong, but leave it to Fanatics. Leave it to Fanatics and Nike to fuck it up. We had it good with Majestic.
I don't know why it changed, man.
Shut up. She agrees. But so I we need to talk about. We need to talk about three people:
3 people. 1, 2, 3.
Tyrone Taylor,
Yeah,
Jose Buto,
for sure.
Reed Garrett.
Okay. Can I throw in a fourth of Harrison Bader?
No, because we knew he was going to be a
We
starter.
did not know he was
We
going to be
knew
hitting 350.
we knew he was going to be the starting center fielder.
Yes. We did not know he was going to be actually
No,
hitting the
but that's
ball
not where I'm going with
consistently.
this
The guy
conversation.
had 4 hits yesterday. I'm pulling
He
this number
stopped
out of
at
my
Wendy's
ass.
mid-game.
I might be pulling this number out of my ass. He might be hitting 400 in his last 10 games.
He might be because he's had a couple 4-hit games, 3 or 4-hit games. But so I want to highlight Budo, Garrett, and Taylor.
Yeah.
Because these are guys.
Jesus Christ, I am sorry.
Budo and Garrett, roster fringes,
Mhm.
didn't make the team. Taylor, not on the fringes, but on the last 3 or 4 guys in the roster.
We knew he was making the team, but he wasn't going to start.
Right. It could have been he has a 500 OPS and gets cut in June situation. The Mets have one of the best fourth outfielders in baseball.
Yeah.
Reed Garrett.
That's all you need to say. Reed Garrett.
Kind of incredible.
Coming
Look,
into yesterday's outing where he should have had a clean inning, but again, Joey Wendell made an error, and then Reed Garrett's just like, don't worry, bro. I got you. Just turn this double play. And Joey Wendell's like, how about this guy? Hear me out. Instead,
I'll throw it away.
I'm going to throw it into the outfield and give you bases loaded, nobody out. Just a thought. But coming into that game, he struck out 17 of 31 batters he faced. That's
and he picked up another one yesterday.
Elite.
Okay, on the year, I know you're not always a huge analytics guy, but his expected stats. Against him, there's an expected batting average of 132.
Sure, it's pretty good.
An expected slugging percentage of 175, which equates to an expected ERA of 149, which tells you this is not just a fluke.
It's not a fluke.
He's stupidly filthy.
Mm-hmm.
Baseball Savant also puts run values on their pitches. His split finger already has a +2 run value on it. That is filthy. The expected batting average against his sweeper is .024. The expecting slugging percentage
time on that
against
number?
his sweeper is 0.029.
Jesus.
The whiff rate on his split finger, which he's thrown 33 times, 64.7%. So I mean, okay,
That sounds good.
he's a 5-pitch reliever, and they're all plus pitches this year. I mean, the only pitch that's been hit around a little bit has been the 4-seam fastball. It's been put in play. It's been fairly put in play 5 times, and twice it's resulted in a single. That's it. That is it. He has every time he's thrown his sinker with 2 strikes, that pitch has resulted in a strikeout.
That sounds good.
The whiff rate on his sweeper, 46.7. And the whiff rate on his slider, 41.7.
Yeah.
So just to kind of, it's like just the more I look at these, his sinker has 20 inches of movement.
Yeah,
A
that sounds pretty good.
sinker. That's DeGrom-esque out of DeGrom's 2-seamer. Like it's, remember like we would say like DeGrom's cutter is just a fast, super fast slider.
Right.
That's kind of what we're getting at here. Like 20 inches of movement on a sinker. So he has, like, we're at the point where we got to be asking ourselves, when do we start throwing Reed Garrett into high leverage situations? And mind you, he does not have a full year of club of service under his belt. He's under Mets club control through 2030. Not that he'll make it all that way. He can get lit up tomorrow and have a 4 ERA. It is what it is. It
Right.
is what it is.
Right.
But if this stuff of his is legitimate, the Mets,
Which so far it looks like it is.
it's a stupidly filthy club controlled cheap reliever who's already in his prime.
Right.
So you don't have to worry about, oh, he's 27 and about to hit the market. Now we have to overpay for a reliever. He's already 31.
Yeah,
He
this
is
isn't an Aaron
physically
Luke
in his
situation.
prime. Right. So this guy might be, he might only last for a couple years. That's fine. But you're going to get it at the $700,000 league minimum for a couple of years.
You know what? I'm glad you're bringing this guy up because this is another thing that I wanted to echo when we originally planned on recording, but things happen. For as long as this podcast has been going, and for as long as you've been on as a full-time member of the podcast,
Hated the guy.
we've been looking for one thing out of the bullpen, and that's someone to fill out that Trevor Williams role. Guess what, buddy? Wake up, babe. A new Trevor Williams just dropped.
Dude, I think he might already be past that in the sense that he's too good for that role.
He could be.
Like, that might have to be like, Dom Hamill or someone like that. But like,
No, but what we've been looking for, that multi-inning guy that's just going to bridge the gap from the 6th to the 7th or the 8th inning. Because that's what Trevor Williams, or if someone can only go 4 innings, hey, listen, Reed, we need you to eat up 3 innings. Got you.
He might just be like a guy where, some nights he's working a clean 8th with 2 Ks to set up for Diaz. And some days he's giving you 3 innings out of the pen starting in the 4th.
Right.
That just might be what he is, but that is like indispensably valuable.
He might just be him. He might just be him.
It's kind of insane.
Yeah.
It is kind of insane. Like, just within the league, his expected batting average, 97th, top 3% in the league. Okay, 97th percentile.
Yeah.
Expected slugging, 98th percentile. His expected isolated power, the gap between batting average and slugging, 96th percentile. Strikeout rate, 99th percentile. Whiff rate, 99th percentile. And like, I know it's easy to say, like, especially on Baseball Savant, red number's good, blue number's bad.
Am I seeing this right? He hasn't given up a barrel all year?
No. and he started the year in mop-up roles. Like this, and I hated this dude. I did not know why he was still around.
I think we know why.
But you have to give credit to Stearns.
Hey, shout out David Stearns.
I mean, he was picked up by Epler on waivers last
Shout out
year,
David Stearns.
but he was a mop guy last year. He had a mid-5 ERA. He came into camp, was not great in camp.
Right.
You have to give credit. He had every right to clean house, and he mostly did, but he held on to Garrett, saw something in him, and look at what he is now. We all know that wouldn't happen under Epler and his guys.
Mhm.
We all know that wasn't happening. So it's incredible. And then Jose Buto.
Dude, I was there for that Royal start. That guy's disgusting.
He is a legitimate piece of the future going forward.
He
is
made Bobby Witt, who, as of right now, yes, it's mid. He's very good at baseball. It's April 20th, 14 Blazers. It's April 20th, but as of right now, Bobby Witt
in the American League.
He's in the conversation for MVP just going forward.
If
the guy just signed an 11-year deal.
If Jose Buto has a good start, he will have the best. It will end up being the best 12-game stretch of any Mets rookie homegrown starter since.
Are you going to say his name again?
Noah Syndergaard?
That's not right. I thought you were going to DeGrom there.
Talking a rookie homegrown pitcher, Syndergaard was after DeGrom. So it might be DeGrom.
True. Yeah.
It depends on how. This is an extended 12-game stretch of him pitching to potentially a sub-3 ERA. I'm willing to bet no Mets rookie pitcher has done that since DeGrom, since Syndergaard at least. And then you go back, if you want to say a homegrown, the Mets didn't draft Syndergaard, they didn't eye him out. You go back to DeGrom. And so we're looking at this possibly being the best stretch by a Mets signed and developed rookie starter in a decade. A decade.
It's possible. I'm going to try to look that up right now. But
I put this at 12 games because the 12th game for Tyler McGill was when he got obliterated by the Dodgers his rookie year.
Mm-hmm.
David Peterson never came close to this. And they just didn't have good rookie starters in the years prior.
Mm-hmm.
Because they were riding on Syndergaard, Harvey, Matz, Wheeler, Stroman, whoever it might be. They didn't have rookie starters. So this might be the best 12 games. Going back to last year, that's 2 months worth of starts. Best stretch by a Mets rookie starter in a decade. He's a legitimate piece of the future.
And you said 12 games?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I'm going to try to.
It would have to be, because it's definitely not Peterson or McGill.
Right.
And those are the most notable rookie starters since DeGrom, Wheeler, Matz.
Might take a minute. But yeah.
Yeah, so it's So these are three guys who have more or less made themselves significant parts of the Mets this year and next, who very easily could have been DFA candidates in July.
Right.
So it's everything is coming up Mets.
Yeah, kind of.
I don't know how often we've ever said that ever.
Recently,
2020,
not very, not even 2020
or 2022.
2022, yeah.
That summer, not the fall, just the summer.
No, most certainly not.
But everything's coming up Mets right now. This is the best stretch of New York Mets since summer 2022. And it's something about beating them in LA, but just that visual is like, all right, this is a contender. This is a legitimate team.
Yeah.
If they win today, it's a 600 winning percentage. It's 20 games. Who cares? But you'll see New York Mets winning percentage 600.
Especially again after starting 0-5.
Yeah,
and in those 5 games looking really, 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 really bad.
Right. But I mean, even going back to some of them, you have an extra inning loss that felt like it could have gone either way.
It could have gone, but then Michael Tonkin decided to blow it up.
Right. You have the 9-6 loss in Cincinnati, where if you had gone with the bullpen differently, I think you only had Diekman, Lopez, and Ramirez that game. So if you go with Diekman and Lopez first, and then you try to use Ramirez for one inning, they might have won that game. And then you have a 3-1 and a 4-1 loss.
The Mets also have the 5th best run differential in the National League now.
They've played the toughest schedule in baseball to start the year.
Mm-hmm.
Every team they've played is above 500, at least entering last night's game. I mean, but between that and just how good the pitching has been in the minor league so far, it's kind of, you kind of start to smile a little bit more when you watch and think and read about the Mets.
Your thing was by rookies, right?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm seeing in 1984, Doc Gooden had a 1.23 ERA. I don't think Budo is going to beat that.
He's at 3 flat right now over his last 11.
That's not bad. A lot of Doc Gooden. It's a lot of Doc. But then after that, you gotta do some scrolling. More Doc. What was DeGrom was 13?
14.
14. Okay. This is crazy. Was Syndergaard 15?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so then yeah, we're looking Noah Syndergaard. He had a 2.44 in 12 starts.
Yeah. So this is a chance with a good start tonight to the best Mets rookie run in 10 years.
And if he were to do it against the Dodgers, like you said, this is a piece. This is a piece.
It's kind of incredible some of the way some of these things have broken for the Mets.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
And,
like I said,
it's also time to we've given credit to Mendoza, we've given credit to Stearns, and we've given credit to this guy in the past few years. You got to give credit to Jeremy Hefner.
yeah, I mean,
With the piece that he was
Hefner,
given, and
yeah,
you've turned
Hefner,
around Jose Budo.
Yeagers, the
Reed Garrett is the best pitcher in baseball.
the entire pitching development
Mm-hmm.
team. Because you bet
Pitching
your
well.
ass Garrett and Budo spent their winter at the lab. Jonah Tong, I don't know if you've read anything about him, is striking out a million people.
I've read.
Before he blew out his elbow again, Calvin Ziegler was striking out a million people.
Mhm.
Like Dom Hamels, Christian Scott, Cade Morris. Like you have all these guys looking.
Dude, Christian Scott looks
It's
disgusting.
you're at a point. Like Tidwell struck out 11 in relief the other day of Max Kranick, who was on his rehab, who struck out 6 of his 9 batters.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's looking stupid right now.
Yeah.
I don't know who Steve is employing at this facility, but they probably need a raise.
They probably do.
So it's between Hefner and Eric Yaggers, and everyone else they have working at that. I had a player tell me in an interview once, it's like having 75 pitching coaches that all specialize in something different.
Mm.
So like just the comprehensiveness and just what they're getting out of that facility. We're seeing it in the big league level. We're seeing it in the minor league level. And you start to feel better about the Mets and what they can do.
It's still very early.
Right.
It's
But
still
the
very
returns,
early.
the early
We all know
returns,
the early returns are great. Who they're beating is great. But we all know as soon as that calendar turns to June 1st, every year things could change.
right.
So let's see if we can get past June, and then we can start getting really excited about this.
But the Mets might be in an interesting spot in a couple weeks where if Christian Scott keeps pitching this way, you're going to ask yourself, how much longer can you keep him in Syracuse?
Right.
You're gonna have David Peterson coming back,
Sure.
who ended the year pretty strong. And I'm not sure what his options scenario looks like. I'll quickly check it right now.
I'd have to believe he's out of options.
Well, they changed it. You get like option years. Did they option him in 2022 at all? They definitely did in 21.
I want to say they did, but I can't say confidently.
God, he's already 20. He has one left. This is his last option here.
Okay.
So I mean, he's likely optioned no matter what, just considering he's coming back from a pretty
But if
major
Christian
injury.
Scott keeps tearing it up, you got to wonder, maybe move Hauser to the bullpen.
Well, and you also have to ask yourself, Max Kranick looked really good in camp and has looked really good
He
on
looked
rehab.
really good in camp.
Like you're at this point where you're like, all right, fuck, man, we don't have enough spot for all these guys. Like, this is kind of incredible.
I'm not going to say embarrassment of riches, but it's
pushing it.
It's teetering.
It's
teetering.
going that way, but it's also you're also in a spot where now, like, all right,
But this is also what David Stearns does, man. He
if
knows
Tonkin looks bad again. You're like, all right,
he
Max
knows
Kranick
how
can
to
do this.
build a staff.
He does, top to bottom. From your
Did it in
number one
Milwaukee,
starter to your
and now
last
so far
starter
he's
in
doing it
last
here
starter.
again. This is 19 games into this first year as president, but what he's built with the pitching staff, you have to be impressed.
There's no way not to be.
Mhm.
There is no way not to be impressed.
I think this is kind of what the expectation was for Sean Manaea. So far, he's turned around Luis Severino. Hauser's been kind of up and down, but like he hasn't been terrible. Of all the guys that we've seen on the mound, there's the only one just like, why the hell is this guy still here? To me, is Tonkin.
Right. I mean, and they're willing to give him a second chance, but that's also has to be based on how good the rest of the bullpen has been.
Sure.
When you have 7 other guys pitching at a high level, you can, give Tonka another look and be like, all right, we clearly saw something in you. Let's give it another chance.
I guess.
And if it sucks, okay, you still have like a guy like a Nate Lavender you can go to.
Yeah.
You still have Dead Neil Nunez.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to
really
have
good.
Kranick, Sean Reed Foley.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be interesting, but
yeah,
they have more than 8 major league caliber arms for a bullpen spot, and they have more than 5 major league caliber starters.
Right.
Like their starting pitching has been some of the best in baseball, and you can argue that their 2 best starting pitchers started the 2 of their 5 best starting pitchers started the year in Syracuse between Budo and Scott.
And we haven't even seen Senga.
Right. It's kind of incredible.
So
like, the Mets might be in a spot where they're able to get like a qualifying offer out of Luis Severino. Because if he's good, if he's going to hit the market and be 30, 29, 30, someone's going to look at him and give him a multi-year deal.
Sure.
Even for all our reservations about Snell and Montgomery, they still got multi-year deals. Snell did a much better deal than Montgomery.
Well,
but
Snell's not out. Snell's not. He can be free.
Right. Yeah. But Snell still got that with the qualifying offer attached.
Right.
But
I think
at the worst, you're letting these
reservations
guys
are based on their agent. Luis Severino is not, to my knowledge, he's not Boris.
No. But that's right. So maybe it's like he's not looking for a 6-year or whatever. He's like, all right, I'll take a 3-year deal for $60 million. And someone's
or
like,
hell, even
right,
it's like 2 in investing. You're gonna tell me the Minnesota Twins wouldn't love to have someone like Luis Severino?
No, I mean, absolutely. Absolutely.
The Chicago Cubs, like,
I mean, even if you can't get a qualifying offer out of him, great. You let him walk, get his payday. You say thank you. Maybe you do the same to Sean Manaea. You do the same to Jose Quintana, and you slot in. All right, Christian Scott, here you go, dude.
Yeah,
like it's kind of incredible.
The rotation next year, I think, is going to be vastly different, but that's for a litany of other reasons, whether it be just going more balls to the wall, spending, calling up guys like Scott, Hamill, Tidwell, et cetera, et cetera. The rotation next year could be exponentially different, where the only holdover might be Kodai Senga, who hasn't even thrown a pitch yet.
I would expect, look, as of right now,
maybe
I would expect Budo's a starter next year. I would expect Senga's one. I'd expect Scott's one. I think maybe that's probably a competition for the last spot, or you just look to see what's out there. I expect that whether it's through trading prospect capital or spending money, they bring in someone above Senga. or
They're going to bring in
on the
a
same level as him.
legitimate ace next year.
Right. So they'll either bring in someone above him or on the same level. And then and then the fifth starter, whether it's someone in house like a Dom Hamill, maybe Mania picks up that option.
Maybe just says, you know what? I really like it here.
Yeah, like you don't know. And it's not like it's not a lot of money. It's still $13 million.
Mhm.
So, it'll look different next year, but the Mets are at least in a spot where I think of all their expiring contracts, there's at least a chance they might be able to get a qualifying offer out of one.
I think so. I think that's possible.
If Mania opts out, then I think definitely. Because if he's opting out of 13 million, he's opting out for a multi-year deal at more than what they're paying him right now.
Right.
Or than he'd make next year, which is 14-ish.
Final thoughts?
No, that's all I got.
Yeah.
LFGM.
I don't know where to go from here.
No, I think we just end it.
I like,
It's getting awkward.
part of me wants to go with our predictions, but I don't know.
I don't think I think they're playing too good right now.
Yeah, I don't want to funk with
anything.
it. I don't want to funk
Yeah.
with it.
I don't want to fuck with it either. Let's go Mets.
Yeah, man. You know what? I mean, fuck it. Let's ride. For Jack Ramsey, Antonio Slater, you know what to do. Follow us, like it, do what you got to do. Most importantly, as always, LFGM.